Okay. Yes. Boom. We are live, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us today. We have a fun guest. I'm excited to jump and dive down this rabbit hole with everyone. So we have a Michael Wagner, the co-founder and CEO of Star Atlas. Michael, how you doing today?
Doing fantastic, man. It's been a really great week for us and really just a really great year for us. So excited for the conversation. But before we start, I have just one question for you.
Yes.
What's it going to take to convert you from Arcane Bear to Arcane Bull?
You know, I've been asked this question a few times, and I'll let you know, because it's the bear itself is emblematic of someone that accumulates, forges, is interested in family, and likes berries, honey, and salmon. So that emblem to me is really interesting, because the bear market usually is about going down. When prices are down, good bears are accumulating, and we just the bear is who you want to be. You want to know how to accumulate as prices are going down. The bull market is just the fun part, but the bears are the real game winners.
Justifiable. Okay.
Yeah, that's my sentiment behind the bear. So I'm happy to share that part. Michael, it's great to have you on the show. I love the colorful background you've got. You know, there's so much interest around the NFT and gaming sector. Where I'd love to start is tell us a bit about yourself, your story, and we'll dive in from there.
Sure, man. Just let's go back about a decade. My career is in traditional finance, CFA charter holder. So really worked in the field of determining intrinsic value of securities through investment analysis and portfolio management, but got introduced to Bitcoin and crypto through script coin mining in 2013. Terrible timing. Speaking of the bear market, that was horrible timing. Mt. Gox had just recently, I just predated the collapse of Mt. Gox, and then we entered into a 2-year bear cycle. But to your exact point, I dedicated those next 2 years to really just understanding and immersing myself in everything crypto and everything blockchain and all of the technology surrounding it. And it's really paid off. It's paid some dividends, and launched my first company in 2016, which is a crypto and cannabis company called Tokes. And I met a couple of the people that went on to become co-founders with me at Star Atlas, which we conceptualized in mid 2020. This was kind of on the tail of all the hype that was going on around DeFi and the innovation that was coming out in that space. Also seeing and recognizing the potential of NFT marketplaces, and just our own internal passion and enthusiasm for gaming. I've told this story, quite a bit, but my formative years growing up were spent in many a basements in friends' house, just participating in LAN parties. And our group was called the Lanarchists. And so, it's just a group of like 20, 25 nerds that would game all weekend and drink Mountain Dew, but a lot of fun. And so the whole team from the leadership side, as well as a lot of the talent we brought on, just very passionate about gaming. And we recognize the potential and opportunity to create something that would be a substantial improvement over what we saw in the existing nascent blockchain gaming space. So we believed in the fundamentals of incorporating financial incentives and true asset ownership for players, but we also felt that we could create a game and a digital experience that would be comparable to what we see in the mainstream. And so, we're building out this AAA quality game. We're using Unreal Engine 5, so you get these cinematic quality graphics in gameplay. And the idea is to really blur the line between physical reality and the digital reality of the future.
Yeah, it's been an interesting ride in the crypto sector to see a lot of the, let's say, NFTs that have gained a lot of traction lately are these, like, I think the first digitally native culture, like for those of us like yourself and me, I was playing with a diode radio and I thought it was cool when I was younger, to seeing this tech evolve. And I think the kind of Pac-Man digital stuff has a really eclectic drive to the nature of some of the very first adopters in the Bitcoin and the technology sector. Because I think it reminds us of kind of when we're younger, but this new change in the relationship, because of, again, something like the use of Unreal Engine 5, which just has extremely high rendering speeds. And you're using a blockchain that goes down that avenue. I think one of the fun parts about this play to earn, this play to own, these participation rewards that are taking place in the blockchain sector is such an important part of how we move forward, I think, as a society as well. Can you tell me a little bit about the integration of the participation rewards in the game. It's one of the parts that I think is most fascinating. How does one player like get a piece? Is it through random play, or is it the right timing? How does some of the in-game play and access to NFTs, this kind of idea work?
Sure. Let me maybe preface the blockchain mechanics with the gameplay pillars, which include space exploration, territory control, and political domination. It's a grand strategy, massively multiplayer online game based in space. So, comparable to something like EVE Online. We pulled a lot of inspiration from the economics of EVE Online into the economic design of Star Atlas. And then, maybe more recently, Star Citizen is a game we get compared to a lot. So that's kind of the caliber of game that we're developing. But where we have, I believe, a significant advantage is, we're transforming the revenue model and the ownership model for players and users of our platform, whereas it's historically been very much walled garden and transactional. I like to draw the analogy of like kind of a rental economy versus ownership economy. Most legacy games are effectively rental based, right? You get access to the assets and the entertainment value while you're playing. But in our case, you're actually purchasing those and owning those. And so it's like home ownership versus renting a property. If at some point you decide you want to move or leave the game environment, you actually have the ability to recapture value off of the asset. And naturally, because these are, they're somewhat speculative, we're building all utility driven assets that inherently have some kind of value because they're also able to generate income for the player. There's definite potential there for them to either price appreciate, also potential for them to depreciate in value, but you get the cash flows in between as well. So on the game, on the blockchain mechanics side, of course, we're using NFTs. So almost everything that is viewable in the game universe will be an NFT. That would be like weapon systems and defenses. And then there's also land, and you can put a variety of different structures on the land. The primary gameplay loop that we're building out initially is that of mining. And so, when you own land, you're able to extract ore. This enters into a crafting loop where you're able to ultimately go on and create your own NFTs. And there will be kind of a blueprint system with a material list of being able to create more monetary value for themselves over time. So it's, are you a saver or are you a spender? Some people might just extract value immediately and liquidate that. Other players are going to reinvest in themselves and be able to earn more in the future as a result. But so they can either use those NFTs, they can sell them on decentralized marketplaces. They could also be deconstructed if you want to extract the materials back out of it. Otherwise, the ore itself and some of the raw materials will be able to be sold directly to NPCs or non-playable characters. And the payment for that would be part of our Atlas emission curve. So getting into kind of what is Atlas, and also our secondary token, which is Polis. Atlas is the in-game transactional currency. So all of the financial rewards, as well as all of the operating expenses in the game, are denominated in Atlas. And an example of some expenses would be this land value tax system that we have associated with property in game. It could be refueling a ship or repairing a ship if it's damaged. It could be purchasing some boost, like consumables, also upgrading equipment and upgrading items over time. They have a fixed cost in Atlas. And so the idea is that we're developing out a real true economy, functional economy in the game that's also sustainable. And so, if you're living in the metaverse, it's not just easy income that flows into you, right? Like that's kind of DeFi, throw some money passively into a liquidity pool and you're getting the subsidy as a result. You actually have to be efficient and strategic in how you manage your operations to ensure that you're maximizing your own profit based on your gameplay. And so Atlas is the transactional currency. Polis is our DAO system, and it has multiple tiers to it. It's a hierarchical structure, and it kind of goes from the very broad to the very specific, with the broadest reaching being the external DAO, where players are able to influence long-term evolution of the game. And that would even, that goes so far as to say like what features are added, decisions around economics like emission schedules, inflation rates, asset release schedules, and even being able to recruit external developers beyond us as the monopolistic creator to date. But over time, as we decentralize, more and more people will be able to contribute openly to the development of the metaverse. And so, we're building this game concept. We have all of our mechanics scoped out. We want to create an entertaining and enjoyable experience that also rewards the player. But longer term, the bigger picture is this almost living organism that's a public utility that is the metaverse. And so that's kind of external DAO. And then within the game, political structure and strategy is determined by either a faction DAO, a regional DAO, or the clan or guild system, which is decentralized autonomous corporations in Star Atlas. They all have their own independent DAOs, independent treasuries, independent board of governors, and they get to make influential decisions on what happens at whatever level of government that they happen to participate in. And then the final piece is that we're also incorporating a lot of DeFi primitives into the game. So players are able to compound earnings on undeployed capital that was earned. So, once again, going back to that example of like saver versus spender, if you're earning digital assets through gameplay in Star Atlas, but you don't have any immediate use for them, it would make a lot of sense to put that into a DeFi protocol where you can generate anywhere from say 30 to 300% APY. And these aren't our protocols; these are integrations that we're facilitating. But it allows players to earn higher yields and higher returns, or income rather, as a result of the tool set that we're providing to them.
Well, I love how ambitious and well scoped the vision is. I think it's such an interesting concept. I wanted to ask you later about the book named Snow Crash. We'll save that for the end. But one of the parts that I always really liked about the blockchain sector was this early participation reward idea that has been set up. And one of the areas that I've always been curious about is, especially and I think it works. You brought up some great points about the fact you basically get to test some of the early stage governance in small groups faster than we would be able to test it in real life, because the metaverse is a bit less tangible of a place. Like if you're enacting laws and governance with a DAO or something in the real world, the consequences could be higher than in a video game. So I like that it's strategically provides a lot of advantage for data of these, what something like this might look like in the real world for having voting through these systems effectively, which is a whole nother topic. But also under this play to earn strategy, can the player move through the game and are they earning NFTs that are locked in missions and stuff like this as well? Like, how does a new player come in and start earning, or do they have to buy their way into the game initially? What does the first user experience look like for when they step into the playing mode? Hopefully.
Yeah, and I just want to touch on that whole kind of experimental testing ground that we're able to create in this, relatively accurately simulated reality inside digital space. It does have implications for the ways that decisions get made and the way that society evolves in physical space as well. But we are cautious because there is this true financial unit in the game, that we're not just reckless in decision making, because it will have impact on people's lives. Right? Like their ability to generate income in game might change their decision about where they work or how they work. And so if we're not very vigilant in the design of the economics, then that could significantly hurt people. And so we want to be careful, but we also want to be experimental in the game. And we do think that will have implications in the real world. But there are a couple of entry points. I would say, you could either be, and this kind of thesis and discussion has evolved even for me just over the last couple of weeks. Some of it has arisen based on questions or skepticism that arose in our Discord, but the primary mode that a player will engage would be through the purchase of some assets. Now we're making this very approachable. So, you could spend anywhere from say $10 to $50 and have all of the equipment that you need to at least enter at the lowest tiers. And that would include some type of ship, some type of land, some type of mining equipment that you could actually utilize in the game. And for those players that are contributing, $50 to purchase assets, their income potential is limited by the amount of value that they're operating with. However, that goes back to my point of they can reinvest all of those earnings into upgrading equipment over time, and it increases their earnings potential. So that's one path in where they actually own it. The core difference, though, once again, not being expense-based, but being ownership-based. If they decide that they don't like the game or don't want to play later, they're able to turn around and resell those assets and recapture the capital investment necessary to get into the game. So this is just transformative and incredibly different from, hey, I want to spend $50 to play this title, and if you don't like it, the $50 is gone. There's no way for it to come back to you. You already bought the game. You're not going to get refunded. So in our case, it's almost like a capital stake that you put into the game that you can pull back out later. So it's almost just a deposit in escrow. This is one way to think about it. It's kind of like a deposit in escrow to play. And then when you're done, pull that back out and get your money back, kind of a scenario. So that's one way. What I was referring to with the evolution of this kind of topic is there's an entirely separate demographic of people who might not need to buy anything. Now, they wouldn't have the asset ownership, but other people, capital providers, will be purchasing substantial portfolios of game assets in Star Atlas, but those individuals or groups don't have the intention to actually play. Now, the way that they monetize their portfolio is to employ people in the metaverse. And so they might go out and hire people to manage their land, to fly their spaceship or crew their spaceship, complete missions on their behalf, and perform other functions in the game that generate revenue. And they're just getting paid a salary for that, or a wage for that activity. And then the portfolio owner becomes the business operator, the business owner who employs these people. And as a result of that dynamic, I think we'll just see this massive boom in the job economy within Star Atlas of people all over the world getting employed. And the hope would be that over time they're able to create savings and get invested in the game themselves and own their own assets and continue to build wealth from there.
Yeah, it was one of the parts that I thought was really interesting about the Axes storyline. I think Hype Beast or someone did an article about it where there were these guilds of people in the Philippines who didn't have the money to purchase the Axes in the first place, so they were being loaned out through the groups. They'd call them, I think in the Philippines, a group of kids there called it the Axie University, and they would pay for the initial entry for other people to learn how to play the game and earn that in-game revenue. It's such a fascinating conversation. I guess part of my interest too is there a way, maybe as a conjecture part, and then as well, like can one build into the game like almost like a mining portion where like participation, you happen to be at the right place at the right time and there's rewards that are given out? Like are there random generation events for these in-game assets as well outside of the game players?
I think it's it's possible, but the way that we're really developing out the game, it is performance-based, I would say. So some expenditure of energy, capital, and time is what allows a player to earn and extract from the universe. So not necessarily these like random lottery-based drops of just being in the right place at the right time. Although that could be cool. We're open to feedback on things like that from the community. And
what I like about this is, sometimes it's difficult when you're in the chain, like you're going through the line of things happening. Like in life, serendipity is one of those moments that brings all the sweet stuff together. And anyways, it's just fun. Just I thought it was kind of a fun philosophical question.
It's like you flip over this rock and there's a bag of money under it. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you happen to be under a particular tier of level, you find it, you get the opportunity to do something. I don't know. It's just a thought. So you guys are bringing together so many great parts. Can you tell us a little bit about a timeline when we can expect to see iterations of this and participation in the Star Atlas metaverse?
Yeah, I mean, technically it's already started. I made a comment a long time ago in Discord that was maybe cryptic, that people are still trying to decipher, but the comment was like, you guys are already playing the game, whether they realize it or not. Being involved even in communication channels at this point is being involved in the game. And we've already seen a number of guilds form just in our Discord channel. People are, AFIA was one of the clans. They actually drafted up or created the wiki with all of the historical information on Star Atlas to date. And so, point is, people are already involved and they're already forming plans and they're already trying to determine like, how are they going to exist in Star Atlas? And so even though the game environment isn't ready, it's happening now, right? You're still early, but it's happening now. So it's great to get involved in any way you can. But we also executed an NFT marketplace that we opened in April, and through that launched our Rebirth Genesis of a Metaverse campaign. Have you seen those by chance? These are...
Yeah, I saw a few of them earlier today while I was going through.
Yeah, so I mean that was a really fun campaign for us to develop. Really great positive feedback from the community. It generated a good amount of revenue for us, which obviously gets reinvested back into continuing to build this vision. But those were digital art, multimedia meta posters, as we call them, and so it was all in-house created concept art. It was enhanced with augmented reality and as well as with audio soundscapes from some mainstream musical talent. Maybe just to be concise, Deadmau5 was like, he performed or produced the track on the final poster. And, along with that, they all, based on a reward tier system, players were able to earn NFT loot box drops that will give them all of the materials or assets they need to start playing. And just one example would be the first poster, which we sold for $64, came accompanied with $58 of approximate value in game assets. And, little alpha leak, truth be told, is the value of those assets based on the completion of our pricing model now are going to actually be worth more than the original poster sold for. So if you bought that poster, not only do you get the NFT collectible, you're also getting a ship and some land and some mining equipment and an orbital space station. You also got exclusive access to our token generation event through either Radium or Apollo X, and we're also running, on FTX for the IEO. But what we're trying to do is continue to drive utility and value to these assets. So, bottom line is, anybody that bought these posters got an experience. They got to understand a little bit more about the lore of Star Atlas, and then all of these additional rewards and accessibility to the game. So that was in April. That ran through July 24th. And the reality is that could have been one of your initial experiences in the Star Atlas metaverse, if you will.
Yeah, no, awesome. I think one of the fascinating parts here too is that early stage participation. I've seen this a bunch of times, that what we're witnessing, whether it's, the ICOs are kind of some of the first areas of where it was noticeable. Here again, is the relationship between the community and the niche products that are being built. Again, there's a whole bunch of ways I think this early stage participation has been growing. So I actually love the way you guys did the kind of portrait pieces, I guess. One of the reasons why I ask, like, my interest in video games hasn't really come back. Like when I was younger and I would play like Crash Bandicoot and stuff, I really haven't touched any of that stuff since then. Like it's mostly been an instrument or something more tangible. But this has started to pique my interest in video games again. This is why I ask, because I think it's I've seen the new Oculus AR goggles, and the kind of the evolution of what this is going to look like over the next few years has been really interesting to me. So I'm intrigued to like play the games and see the evolution again as well. I think from the community standpoint, you guys have done a really good job to bringing aspects of that direct communication through the DAOs, and how to like bring on different, I guess, communications between the way the game is built and pieces of the game are rendered. It's really, really fascinating. How long? That's the question. Like, how long is the roadmap to see some of this fully functional?
Yeah. Fully functional is one thing, and then there's also just kind of the vision once again for the metaverse that I discuss quite frequently. But it's effectively a product that should never be completed, because as we get into the phase where anybody can contribute, this will just evolve based on a global audience contributing their own take on it, and their own content into it. But with respect to the forward-looking roadmap, we're building out two products concurrently, and the first is a mini game. And this is an in-browser web app experience that will allow players to engage in all of the same game mechanics that will be in Unreal Engine, just in a simpler format. And we're doing that so that people can start to get access to, playable modules of the game early. And that also means they'll be able to start deploying their NFTs and start earning income almost immediately. And we're looking at kicking this off early September, and more features of the mini game will roll out through the rest of the year. And pretty solid completion on that product by at least early 2022. But features will be rolling out pretty regularly and iteratively. Now at the same time, we're building. We have a full team that's in production in Unreal Engine, and we're looking to get Unreal experiences into the world as well, possibly as early as December. That would start with a showroom where it's actually in 3D. You're able to walk around this beautifully architected building, view assets, purchase assets, see items in your hangar, see items on like a docking station, right? It might be a ship that's on a dock, and then kind of getting more just bigger over time. And so the next module from there would be a shipyard module where you can actually see items getting crafted, like ships being built in the shipyard itself. And again, interactive, that would be multiplayer. So you can walk around this space station and interact with other people. And, once again, the metaverse is a lot of things. It's not just a video game, and the social component of this future digital space will include a lot of people that just want to go hang out and be a part of a community. And so whether they actually play the game or not, they can be in the metaverse, interact with people, and even find alternative means for them to create value for themselves in that space.
Yeah, I love the broad spectrum conversation around the idea too. It was for anyone that's not aware, the first time I ever heard the word metaverse was from a book called Snow Crash. Please tell me, Michael, that you've read the book Snow Crash.
I love it. Yeah, highly recommended to anyone that's looking to pick up a novel. I also I recently finished it. Actually, it was the first time I ever read it through. It's by Neil Stephenson, and I just picked up the Cryptonomicon as well. I'm looking
Nice.
forward to carrying into that one.
Yeah, when I first started reading, I didn't really know what to expect, but he did such a great writer. Anyways, I also recommend it for anyone that has not yet read it. I think that was the first time I saw a nice integration of the word. I think that's probably where we as the cryptographic community got the word metaverse from. It's probably directly from his work. I feel very confident about that.
Yeah.
But part of my interest here is there's so much potential for what we're just kind of opening the box of right now. It's going to be really interesting. I love the vision that you've put together. You make a great CEO and founder for that. Building on Solana, Unreal Engine, the speed. One of the things that I made a tweet about last night was about the use of the Serum DEX, because Serum effectively underlines a lot of the decentralized trading that takes place in. So when I go and that's why I was asking about the kind of the first iterations of the game too, because what's that you were talking about built-in governance, built-in currency supply rewards effectively, and also the speed of what the decentralized index is, and that means that the whole DEX, all the trading benefits of the underlying assets go through Serum itself as well. So I think it's a really beautiful ecosystem that's taking place here. What's your thoughts on the communications between the different layers of assets? Like right now, Ethereum fees are mostly as high as they are because of the NFT space.
Right. Yeah, and I mean that's we analyzed a lot of different protocols that we could have gone with before we set out on development. Solana just checks so many boxes for us. I mean, the tech is what we need: highly scalable, highly decentralized, low transaction cost, low latency, so sub-second finality on state changes. So the tech was beautiful. The team is extremely capable. We were seeing quite a bit of innovation, even though we were pretty early to Solana. But there were maybe 20 to 25 projects at the time, and now it's well over 500. But the other thing we saw was this integration or development of Project Serum, the Serum DEX protocol, and given everything that we wanted to accomplish with the game, that became a tool and a standard that we could build on top of without having to create it ourselves. And that's really across the blockchain ecosystem, this open source philosophy, and utilizing these technological primitives to build on top of, that is actually going to help us expedite development in the long term. We didn't have to integrate Serum DEX into our NFT marketplaces. We could have handled that in a number of different paths, but there was no reason not to. right? The protocol was already in place. So it was almost plug and play. And of course, it took us a bit of time to massage through exactly how it should work for our platform. And I will caveat and say, the growth on Solana and using tools like Project Serum has been explosive. And so we're encountering some obstacles, even though we've got this great tool set, we're encountering some obstacles, but both teams, or really all teams across the Solana ecosystem, are very communicative, right? And so if we encounter an issue, we drop a question in Discord or in our mutual Telegram or in the Solana ecosystem, one of the Solana ecosystem channels, and we get those problems resolved. And so we actually have the support of the entire Solana ecosystem that's indirectly helping us build this game. Not that they need to contribute directly, but the things that they're building, the tools that they're creating, we benefit from. And I'll give you one other example. I had a really exciting call with the guys at Jet Protocol just yesterday. And what Jet is creating is decentralized lending markets. And I firmly believe in the potential for either lending Atlas to somebody to start to buy some assets in the game, lending Polis, or even just lending out the assets themselves. And the owner of that asset then gets residual income, but the player gets an opportunity to engage in the game on a loan, which is kind of cool. And so, that is another tool that's going to be in our tool belt that we don't have to build. We'll just integrate it when it's ready, right? And when it's functional. So I do think that as a result of that, it will allow us to develop a much better product on a much faster pace than some traditional style of development.
Yes, it's really interesting. When you reduce, well, I guess, most people are starting to recognize this now, but in these systems, when you reduce friction, you increase upside a lot of the times.
Right.
Like one of the fun parts, one of my favorite parts about early understanding of Bitcoin was, okay, well, if you've got a conversation, a valuable communication that's going on, you have middlemen in between all of these conversations, you're going to get a corrupted line that are basically acting as resistance for the communication, like an impedance along the way. So the more impedance you can cut out, you're going to, again, seeing in Axes right now that kids are able to make more money, not even owning any of the assets, just playing the video game 2 to 3 times more than their parents who have owned like a storefront selling goods for decades is
Right.
ridiculous. And I think it's a really such a highlighting piece of what happens when you can reduce the friction in the value chain. With Star Atlas too, what I always thought would be, what I always imagined, and what I think you guys are getting right about this, is the fact that this technology allows people to be rewarded for the participation. So you were never rewarded for Facebook or Instagram or any of these monolithic companies that have grown up in our time, because we were never rewarded. So, but like if you were to backtrack, put us where we are now, you're talking basically about, for lack of a better word, like micro ownerships in these economies as they grow to a network effect, which could reach like a mass, I forget what they call it, mass adoption breaking point effectively. So to see early stage results where people are already making more money playing these games, including DeFi and loaning and lending into the metaverse itself as well, you could see it's such a fascinating draw for people to go do this other thing. It's going to be a really, really interesting decade we have in front of us. I love that you're at the helm here, Michael, as well. A bunch of people in the community had asked questions, things that I would probably never ask about, like what are going to be the basics for gameplay? Is it more mobile? Do you want to go into a bit about the tactile version of the game, what it looks and feels like
Sure.
from platforms, etc.?
Yeah, we can touch on those. And just to preface the conversation, we are still early in development. A lot of this will change and evolve over time. So we have pretty solid strategy around how we expect it to work. But some of these things, until you implement them in reality and they just start, like we can't necessarily predict psychological behavior of the collective that's going to be in Star Atlas either. And, and people will find, I don't want to say exploits, we're security driven, but people are going to find things that are imbalanced that we just couldn't possibly have predicted. So things will definitely change over time, and the DAO will have some influence over that as well. So people that are stakeholders in the DAO will get to introduce proposals and vote on, hey, this mechanism is broken, right? Like it's just not working the way that everybody thinks it should. We as the DAO vote that you as the developer should change this. And so then, we'll be kind of, we'll have to initiate action on it based on the votes of the community. But
there's so many fun questions at the table, and in a very lucid format for playing. I really like where these things can go. So.
Yeah. So remind me, I'm sorry, the first question.
Well, I'm mostly conceptual. So some of the stuff that the community brought to the table is like, what is the tactile version of the game like in its early stages? Like, is it mobile friendly? Do I need it to play it on the PC? Do I log into a website? What are the first kind of tactile versions of the game look like, and what would people need to play?
So yeah, let me touch on the mobile accessibility. I think nobody would deny that the fact that Axie is a mobile app is one of the things that has led to its tremendous success. Because it's so accessible to everybody, even people that don't have bank accounts or traditional financial services have a smartphone usually, right? Which means if you have a smartphone and you have internet, then you can enjoy gameplay within Axie. But with that said, that is not our initial target audience. We are really going towards that higher quality of gameplay, which is why we're building out to AAA quality. Now, that's not to say that we won't support a wider range of participants over time. And in fact, looking at the web browser experience, the mini game, that's something that will also live on and we will continue to support. And the simple fact that the underlying mesh, the data structure is the blockchain, and the fact that we want to build as much of the logic on chain as possible means that actions that take place either on a mobile device, in browser, or in the Unreal Engine version of the game will actually synchronize. And so, if somebody on their mobile phone places mining equipment on a planet on land that they own, that will actually update in the Unreal game as well. And all of that, as I said, would be synchronized. So we're really going after the big picture of AAA gaming. We have the web browser, which is another entry point for people who don't have a very powerful gaming PC. And then at some point in the future, we'll also develop out a mobile experience so that people can also engage in gameplay at a lower level, not as complex as what we're creating within the broader Stylus metaverse, but they'll still be able to play and earn and join the game. So from a priority standpoint, though, it's really spearheading with the mini game so we can get that access out early, focusing on development on the Unreal Engine, and then then we'll spend some time on mobile. But arguably, mobile app development is a lot easier than what we're trying to accomplish on the UE side. And so it's depending on our success this year, which financially we've done quite well as considering we came out in January, and based on what we are looking at for projections going into the end of the year, it's very possible that we just employ a team or even a third-party developer to refine a concept on mobile and get an app deployed. And that might only take 3 to 6 months. Now, pure speculation, I have no idea what the app would look like right now, but we could probably deliver that product pretty quickly if we wanted to.
Oh yeah, that's fun. Yeah, the expansive potential here, I think, is really, really interesting, especially the way we've, I think Axie is just this really unique show, like where the universe around us showed us this unique market fit that I don't think people were really expecting. Like, that's not what I was expecting out of the Axie's community, to see this thriving Filipino story. So I like when the unexpected happens. There's also part of my question about the randomness of the game as well.
So Yield Guild Games, Gabby Daizon was kind of like critical and pivotal in that movement that took place in the Philippines. And then, of course, all of the people across the YGG team and Axie team further accommodating. But what I think we're really seeing is, that specific model that Axie is succeeding with right now is more about frictionless, borderless employment than it is about the game itself even, and that's something that we're taking account of quite substantially. Again, developing nations, when you're trapped geographically by physical location, the amount of opportunities that are available to you differ substantially. But in the digital realm, that those borders will be gone, and you're able to traverse the universe freely from one position to another, and from one employer to another, and from one opportunity to another. And so that's what's really powerful about the next phase of the metaverse, is the fact that the entire global population could be seeking jobs performing tasks and functions for people that also provide higher standard of living. Once again, if you're in a developing nation with maybe a corrupt political regime or a poor economic system or hyperinflation, it's very difficult to succeed in that, right? That instability. And so we take them out of that and we put them in a more stable environment, which is the metaverse, and we let them excel and succeed there.
It's, again, I've always liked how unique some of this stuff comes across, because we go back to the early days of Bitcoin. I guess that's kind of one of the fun parts too, how we started this. Like, I remember the diode radio. I thought the transistor radio was like the shit. I was like, this is so fucking cool. Like, we could pick up radio waves. Like, I don't even understand how my mouse works now. So we've just evolved so quickly in the technological space. It was one of the reasons why, most of our focus has been in our, like, the little financial wheelhouse, because it's what I've been able to spot for a long time. My initial interest was just, hey, not government money, not the potential of even further evolutions of technology and the way people communicate value across borders. So the whole metaverse conversation, the interest of NFTs really started to stand out to me the last few months, especially because of nostalgia, collector's items. You're talking about a whole new range of the way people interact with the products that they buy. Like, okay, well, you bought a Ferrari in real life, you get a Ferrari in a metaverse version or some shit as well. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see how these two sides of community start to collaborate as well. And again, removing that border, that friction of travel through time. It's a really, really great, it's a really like a broad spectrum conversation, especially because we know we've got decades here. That's why I think, like, trying to come to terms is like, okay, well, we went from the transistor radio to where we are now. How many? It's usually like 5 to 10 years before we see this stuff really come into full fruition, but even quicker in the digital age. So the only last few questions everyone had asked was more about like in gameplay dynamics. Like, are there going to be missions set up? Like, is it like Warcraft, or I think there's a few other ones that they had asked, RuneScape, this type of thing, or?
Yeah, I would say the StarCraft. I saw that question. They had asked about StarCraft, so it's not, this isn't RTS. So there will be some top down, but there's also a first person view. When you're in the ship, you can either be, in the cockpit steering the ship, or you could also pilot it from that third person view. But it's, it's more of a let's just say World of Warcraft style in that 3D space. Real flight simulation with piloting your ships, real weapon systems that you're actually aiming and firing, and things like that. So just to kind of circle back, though, everybody is really, really excited about playing. We are super excited about playing ourselves. Like, we can't wait to get into the game and start playing. But I also think it's important for people to appreciate part of the journey of what, it's like that saying, that quote, like, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey along the way, or something like that. I might be misquoting, but there's a lot that's coming out, and we do get some criticisms or concern from people about, what is the development cycle going to look like for this? But the primary point I'd like to get across is that we're trying to release new experiences over time, and try to appreciate those experiences, and also understand that we are going to have people from all over the world that are able to contribute back to this and accelerate development. But we shouldn't be thinking about this in terms of like, when is it done? Because, as I said, should never really be done. It should just continue to grow. And so yeah, I guess that was a bit of a tangent, but I wanted to touch on it because everybody wants to know, like, when will it be here? And like I said, it's kind of already here. It's already happening. So any other gameplay dynamics specifically that they were looking into?
Oh, yeah. Well, a lot of them were centered around the game. Yeah, for me, those are some of the least significant questions. These ideas around decentralized governance models, this whole ability to practice a lot of the stuff in the non-real world, I think is super fascinating. And then again, most of our community is fairly well versed in your guys' launch, but I think it was on there was an IDO on FTX yesterday, and then you've got Radium already happened, and Apollo happens on the 31st, if I'm correct?
So they're all technically ongoing still.
Oh, okay.
They all kind of close on September 1st. FTX IEO was, yeah, I mean, we can talk about the mechanics if you want, but it was like it's a lottery system based on staking FTT. Apollo X was one of the satellite launch pads. And then we also have Radium, which is an ecosystem partner and building within Solana, and they have the accelerator program. So yeah, they were all kind of like ticketing or lottery systems or some probability chance of winning or first come, first serve in some cases. But that's all really closing out now, just at the beginning. The 1st of September, with distributions of those tokens going out on the 2nd. And then you'll actually see things like our NFT loot box drops from the Rebirth campaign coming out, the launch of the registration process. And then that flows into the core gameplay mechanics of ship missions, where you can complete these, you can get rewards and NFTs. You might get a crew member. You might get a crew member, like say you save a politician who had been captured by some evil rebels, out in space. If you complete the mission, you'll get to save that crew member, and that will go into your inventory as an NFT, or just rewards in Atlas or materials or any other things that we can really introduce there. That leads, subsequent to that will be land ownership and mining, and then also space station configuration and platform development, which is another kind of form of crafting loop, but it's one in which other players would have access to your space station if you allow it, and then they can monetize any of the mutual player actions on their space station. So that could be like somebody comes to your space station to refuel their ship, and there will probably be a base price that needs to be charged for fuel. But if it's in an obscure location, if they pick it, like any real estate location, if they picked a good spot, they could charge a premium on fuel, and that premium could be captured completely by the player. So things like that will be introduced. And then finally, we'll be releasing the namesake of the game, the map of the universe, which is the Star Atlas. So that's kind of like mini game. And then these other experiences will be coming out either end of this year or early next year, related to 3D world development in Unreal Engine.
Awesome. Yeah, I think it's so exciting to see again how quickly these stories and ideas develop. You've done a great job so far. A bunch of people were asking about the launch the other day. We just always try to refer everyone to the Star Atlas Discord channel, because their team is more equipped to help you figure any of those things out. We can just help highlight the conceptual ideas that we like and why we think something like this might be valuable. All the specific details, though, that's not really our forte. We're much more like broad spectrum thinkers in the way we do things. I'm really interested to play, to get my hands on and see how it plays. I played around with the axes a little bit just to get acquainted with some of this stuff. Again, so just everyone, make sure you're following the Discord channel, the Telegram channel, to stay up to date with anything, especially any of the technical specifics that come down to that. I think you guys are going to have a fun ride. I'm really looking forward to continuing these conversations. There's a bunch of other questions I think we could go over. We could probably talk for a few hours about a bunch of range of topics. So what I'd love to do is, I know that you and I both are tight on time today. So let's put it in the calendar to do one of these again in the future as things develop, and you can continue to show us around the metaverse that you guys are building. Would love to continue these conversations with you, Michael.
Yeah, likewise. I really appreciate the time and the good questions, and appreciate the shout out on Discord. Speaking of which, we do regular town halls, as we call them, in the Discord amphitheater. This is very similar to like what Clubhouse did, right? And Twitter Spaces now. We do it all in Discord, and it's a live Q&A. We'll provide updates to our community and allow people to come up on stage with us and just ask questions, and we answer those on the fly. So we're very communicative. We're very open and transparent about what's going on and kind of the state of things. We appreciate all of the community participation and engagement. But yeah, to your point, Discord is really great if you have questions, because a lot of the community there is really informed. They've heard a lot of the questions over and over and over again, and so they're like helping us respond to all of these, which we super appreciate, by the way, because there's a lot of people that are interested. Twitter is really good because we not only do we share information, but a lot of our content drops, like the concept art and even production art that we're pushing out, go through Twitter. And then, Telegram's Telegram. that's for the more crypto centric people, I would say. But, it's not as well organized just because it's it's Telegram. And so Discord has all of the separate channels that people can join that with topics specific to their questions. So, but yeah, Arcane, love it, man. Appreciate you having me on the show, and definitely looking forward to doing one of these again.
Awesome, Michael. Yeah, it was a pleasure. I'm really excited about the dynamics of the questions you guys are going to be able to get to work on. Yeah, and I love Discord too. That's a great point. And shout out to the Bear family in the Discord channel for helping everyone else answer questions as well. Michael makes a great point there. Without the community, so much of this would be impossible. So thank you guys all for the support. Give us the thumbs up. Leave your thoughts, your questions, your comments. And again, Discord for the Star Atlas community, and Twitter for any of the official daily updates you might be looking for. We'll chat again soon, Michael. I look forward to it.
Thanks so much, man. Take care.
Tell us when you're coming down. We're having a get together in April, Costa Rica in April next year. That's the plan.
In Costa Rica?
Yeah.
I'm there. I'm all about it. Yeah. I'll be there.
The internet is fast enough. I have enough fiber optic cables running through the lemon trees. It all works great.
We'll have to run a Star Atlas LAN party while I'm there then.
Yes. Yeah. Perfect. Pools and video games. I look forward to it.
Yeah. Right on, man. Okay.